Have you noticed that colds seem to come around more often? Or that small cuts don't heal quite as fast as they used to? After 60, our immune system isn't as strong as it once was, and infections can sneak in more easily. But that's not a life sentence. Today we're going to talk about 6 simple hygiene habits that truly help protect you from infections. No medical jargon, no fear tactics, just practical things you can start doing right away. Because taking care of yourself isn't a luxury, it's protection, and your health is your freedom. You deserve to keep it. Let's begin with a simple truth that's often forgotten. Your hands are the front door to your health. Every time you open a mailbox, press an elevator button, handle cash, or lean on a shopping cart, your hands pick up thousands of microscopic guests. Most of them are harmless, but some, like the norovirus or E. coli, can sneak into your body if you touch your face or prepare food without washing up. And for older adults, even a small stomach bug can lead to serious dehydration or hospitalization. Your immune system may not bounce back the way it did at 40. That's not your fault, it's biology. But it does mean that something as basic as hand washing becomes one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. It's not about being paranoid, it's about being practical. I still remember a man named George who came into my clinic in Cincinnati a few years ago. He was 74, sharp as a tack, and prided himself on staying active, walking to the bank and post office most mornings. One week, he came down with severe nausea and stomach cramps. It hit hard and fast. His daughter brought him in dehydrated and weak, and we had to admit him for IV fluids. As we talked through possible causes, it turned out George had stopped by the bank, handled a pen at the counter, and then ate a muffin from his jacket pocket while waiting for the bus. No hand sanitizer, no quick rinse. He'd never gotten that sick from something so small before, but at his age that kind of infection hits differently. Another patient, Lorraine, 79, from upstate New York, got a respiratory infection after a grocery trip during cold season. She'd touched the shopping cart, wiped her nose, and that was enough. These are lovely, capable people who were doing what they've always done, but the rules change a bit with age and our habits need to adjust too. That realization is what changed their routines, and they've both been healthier since. One of the easiest ways to protect yourself is to create a hand-washing routine that feels automatic. What helps most people is having a first thing I do when I get home habit, straight to the bathroom, soap and water, 20 seconds minimum. If you're not sure how long that is, hum Happy Birthday twice. It may feel silly at first, but it's a great timer. If you're out and can't get to a sink, keep a small bottle of hand sanitizer in your pocket or bag. Use it after handling money, touching railings, or riding public transport. It doesn't need to be complicated, just consistent. You've done so much for others in your life, and now small moments of care for yourself matter more than ever. Every time you wash your hands, you're telling your body, I've got your back. It's a quiet, powerful act of self-respect, and the best part? It's simple, free, and already in your control. Here's a habit many people overlook: changing out your towels and kitchen cloths more often than you think is necessary. I know it sounds small, but damp fabric, especially in a warm kitchen or bathroom, becomes a perfect environment for bacteria and even mold to grow. For those of us over 60, that matters more than it used to. Our skin becomes thinner with age, healing takes longer, and what starts as minor irritation or a rash can easily turn into an infection. If you have grandkids around, it's an even bigger concern. Bacteria on kitchen towels don't stay on towels. They travel. So it's not about being overly clean or fussy, it's about protecting your space and your body from things you can't see, but that definitely impact your well-being. I once had a patient named Helen, 69, from a small town in Texas, who came in with a recurring patch of irritated skin on her hands and wrists. It looked like eczema at first, but none of the creams were helping. During our second visit, she casually mentioned wiping down the kitchen counters 3 times a day using the same cloth, and how her towels still felt clean even after several days. We took a swab of the towel, just out of curiosity, and found bacteria that commonly leads to mild skin infections and even stomach bugs. It explained why her 7-year-old grandson had been having random bouts of stomach upset when visiting. Helen was shocked. She always thought she was doing things right, and in many ways she was, but this one small oversight was enough to create a cycle of contamination in her home. Another case I remember well was Robert, 73, from Arizona. He developed a fungal rash that kept returning. It turned out the bathroom towel he used for his feet was also used by his wife for drying her hands, and they only changed it once a week. Once we addressed that, the rash didn't come back. Sometimes the fix is that simple. One of the easiest ways to stay ahead of this is to keep a small stack of towels and cloths in rotation. Aim for every 2 to 3 days, especially if they feel even slightly damp. And when you wash them, don't. Just rinse, use a hot cycle, ideally around 140 degrees or 60 degrees C, and let them dry fully before putting them back into use. If that feels like too much, just set a weekly reminder or ask someone to help with the laundry. It's a small routine shift that makes a big health difference. There's a quiet strength in paying attention to the little things. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being steady. When you build small caring habits into your day, you're telling your body and your home, you matter. And that message, spoken through action, is one of the most healing things you can give yourself. Here's one habit that sounds easy, but is surprisingly tricky. Try not to touch your face, especially your eyes, nose, and mouth. I know it might not seem like a big deal, but most viruses, whether it's the common cold, flu, or even more serious infections, enter your body through these areas. And the tricky part is, we touch our faces without even realizing it. Studies show people do it dozens of times every hour. For older adults, this matters even more. Your immune system naturally slows down with age, and that means you may not fight off infections as quickly or easily as you used to. So preventing them in the first place, by limiting how germs reach your body, becomes your strongest defense. This isn't about paranoia or scrubbing everything you own, it's about small awareness habits that protect your health in ways that really matter. I remember Thomas, 72, from Illinois, one of my longtime patients. He had mild dry eyes and often rubbed them without thinking, especially when he was out and about. One winter, during a particularly bad flu season, he ended up catching not only a nasty cold but also developed conjunctivitis, a painful swollen eye infection, all because he rubbed his eye after riding the city bus. He never realized that what felt like a harmless gesture could open the door to a double infection. Another patient, Irene, 68, from Georgia, used to press her hands to her nose and mouth when she felt cold in public spaces like the grocery store. She thought it was comforting, even protective, but one time after being out shopping and skipping hand sanitizer, she came down with a high fever 2 days later. Looking back, she told me, "It never even crossed my mind that my own hand could make me sick." These stories aren't rare. They're the kind of day-to-day things that add up over time, especially when our bodies aren't bouncing back as fast as they used to. What often helps is building a small habit. Keep a tissue or clean cloth in your pocket and use that if you need to scratch, dab, or adjust your glasses. It gives your hands something clean to act as a barrier, and over time, it makes you more aware of how often you're reaching for your face. If you tend to do it when you're nervous or bored, find a way to occupy your hands. Even something as simple as holding a pen or gently pressing your fingers together can interrupt the reflex. These little changes might seem unimportant, but they quietly protect you in powerful ways. Imagine your hands as the gatekeepers and your eyes, nose, and mouth as the open door. By keeping that door shut a little more often, you give your body the best chance to stay strong. And you don't have to get it perfect. Even one less touch a day is a step forward. You've got the awareness now, and that's the first key to control. Another habit that often gets brushed aside, taking cuts and scrapes seriously, even when they seem small. I know it's tempting to just rinse it under the tap, say "I'm fine," and keep going. But for older adults, a minor wound can turn into a real problem much faster than people think. As we age, the skin becomes thinner and more fragile, and it doesn't heal quite as quickly. On top of that, many folks over 60 deal with conditions like diabetes or poor circulation, which slow healing and increase the risk of infection. That means something as ordinary as a paper cut or a scrape from a can edge can lead to swelling, redness, or worse, if not treated quickly. So if you've ever told yourself it's nothing, I'd like to gently encourage you to rethink that, because taking 5 minutes now can prevent weeks of trouble later. I remember Margaret, a 76-year-old retired teacher from Kansas, who came to see me with a swollen red finger. She'd cut herself on a tin can lid while opening beans. At the time, she rinsed it and figured it would be fine. No pain, just a small nick. But by the next evening, her finger was hot, sore, and starting to swell. When she finally came in 2 days later, it was infected. We managed to treat it with antibiotics, but it easily could have developed into something more serious, especially since Margaret has type 2 diabetes. Another patient, Larry, 70, from Oregon, got a scrape on his shin while gardening. He left it uncovered and didn't clean it properly. By the end of the week, he was limping. That small scrape had developed cellulitis, a skin infection that required hospitalization. These aren't rare or extreme stories. They're the kind of everyday situations where early care could have changed the outcome completely. One of the simplest things you can do is keep basic wound care supplies handy, both at home and in your bag or car. What helps many of my patients is having a small kit with an antiseptic wipe, antibiotic ointment, and a clean bandage. If you cut or scrape yourself, don't wait. Clean the area with warm water, apply antiseptic, and cover it. If you notice redness, warmth, or swelling after a day or two, reach out to your doctor. It's always better to catch things early. You're not being dramatic by looking after yourself. You're being smart. Your independence and well-being are worth 5 minutes of care, and sometimes protecting your health starts with something as small as choosing not to ignore a tiny wound. That choice is a form of strength, quiet, steady, and absolutely yours. Here's something that often gets missed. Your dentures and toothbrush need to breathe. I've had so many conversations with patients who believe they're doing everything right when it comes to oral hygiene, and in many ways, they are. But there's one detail they tend to overlook: how and where they store their cleaning tools. See, after brushing or removing dentures, many people instinctively place them back into closed containers or pouches, thinking it keeps things clean. But when you trap moisture like that, you're actually creating the perfect environment for bacteria and mold to grow. And that can lead to gum inflammation, sore spots, or even more serious infections, especially when the immune system isn't as strong as it used to be. For older adults, who may already have sensitive gums or be on medications that reduce saliva, this kind of bacterial buildup can make everyday comfort a real challenge. I think often about Arthur, 80, from Michigan. He's a retired factory supervisor who came to see me with persistent gum tenderness. At first, we couldn't figure out the cause. His brushing habits were consistent, he used mouthwash, and he wasn't eating anything particularly acidic. But when I asked how he stored his dentures, he told me they stayed in a closed plastic case, usually while still damp, every single night. The inside of that container was warm and dark, exactly the kind of place where bacteria thrive. After we talked it through, Arthur switched to either air drying his dentures or placing them in a simple soaking solution that allowed ventilation, and within 2 weeks, the inflammation cleared up. A similar story happened with Linda, 71, from Florida. She kept her toothbrush zipped up in a toiletry bag after use because she didn't like it just sitting out, but that routine caused the bristles to stay damp, leading to musty smells and recurring sore spots on her tongue. We changed her setup. Now she keeps her toothbrush upright in an open cup by the window. No more problems since. What often helps is making sure both your toothbrush and dentures are cleaned thoroughly with warm water after each use, then left to dry in the open air, not sealed inside anything airtight. Dentures can also be soaked overnight in a special solution recommended by your dentist, but they still need to dry during the day. For toothbrushes, store them upright with good air circulation. And if the bristles start to fray or feel sticky, it's time to replace them, usually every 3 months or sooner. You deserve to feel comfortable when you eat, talk, and smile, and that starts with caring for the tools that support those things. Cleanliness isn't about being fussy or perfect. It's about protecting what matters most: your health, your dignity, and your day-to-day ease. Small routines can do big things when they're done with care. One habit that makes a real difference: getting into the routine of changing and washing your clothes after coming home from public places. I know it might sound like overkill at first, especially if you were just out for a bit, but it's more important than people think. The outer layers we wear, jackets, scarves, sweaters, tend to pick up whatever's floating around: dust, pollen, and yes, even viruses and bacteria. Studies have shown that some viruses can survive on fabric for up to 24 hours, especially in cooler, damp conditions. For older adults who may already have weaker immune defenses or underlying conditions, this increases the risk of catching something. Even from something as simple as a coat sleeve or a scarf you rested on a public bench. I'm not talking about fear, I'm talking about prevention. And I'm saying this as someone who's seen the patterns play out again and again. One case that sticks with me was Susan, 68, from Ohio. She helps take care of her 2 grandkids after school and is a very involved, hands-on grandmother. One week she visited a crowded walk-in clinic to help a neighbor, stayed there for about 45 minutes, and then came straight home without thinking much of it. She didn't feel sick, but 2 days later she started having chills and a low-grade fever. We ruled out flu and COVID, but it was clearly some kind of viral bug. When we talked, she remembered she'd kept the same thick cardigan on all day, cuddling her grandkids, cooking, resting on the couch. We couldn't be sure, but it's very likely she brought something home on that outer layer. Another patient of mine, Daniel, 74, from Arizona, had a habit of wearing his gardening hoodie into the kitchen. Over time, we traced his recurring sniffles and mild rashes to that same garment, never washed, just tossed over a chair. After we talked, he started washing it weekly, and those symptoms faded away. What often helps is building a small habit. When you come home, take off your outside layers by the door and either toss them into the laundry or hang them in a separate space to air out. If it's something you wear often, like a winter coat or scarf, try to wash it weekly during cold and flu season, or more often if you've been in crowded places like clinics, stores, or public transit. Keep a clean, indoor sweater near the door if you get chilly. It's a simple routine that creates a cleaner, safer home environment. Think of it like wiping your feet before stepping into the house. It's a quiet sign of care, both for yourself and for the people around you. You're not being overly cautious, you're being thoughtful. And small habits like this done with intention are what long-term health is really built on. You're not protecting just your body, you're protecting your peace of mind. Which of these habits do you already follow? And which one would you like to try? Let us know in the comments. We read every message. If you found this helpful, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. We're here to bring you what really matters, and remember, you are not alone. You're stronger than you think. Life keeps going when you hold it by the hand.